Girl, you so crazy. But really, you aren't. On today's premiere episode of Bridge in the Gap, we will explore mental health awareness. And also, coming off of the holidays, mental health awareness and grief. Um, I am Bridge of Bridge in the Gap. I am Bridget, as many of you know. I am a 57-year-old mom of four. I am a Army veteran, and I have worked in healthcare now for almost 30 years. I have six beautiful grandkids, and I am so happy that you could join us on this journey as we explore relationships between a Gen X mom and her millennial daughters. And with that being said, I would like to introduce Jaleesa. And Jaleesa will be able to tell you more about herself.
Yes. Hi, everybody. I am Jaleesa. I am a 36-year-old mother of two. I have a son and a daughter. I am the oldest of four kids. I am the daughter of two military veterans, and I enjoy spending time with my family and conversing with my family. And some things that I enjoy doing in my spare time is cooking, hanging out with my kids, and TikTok, of course. Some fun things about me is I am a Midwestern girl. I'm from Michigan, and I rep Michigan everywhere I go. And on that note, I am going to go ahead and throw it over to my sister, Jasmine, so she can tell you about herself.
Thank you, Jaleesa. Before I do mine, I just want to ask, what made you want to do this podcast?
You know what? That is a phenomenal question. So right now, there is a loneliness epidemic, especially with people working remotely now. You have online shopping that has taken over. So of course, people are not getting out like they once did. And I just feel like people need real, honest conversations. They also need to have and be able to have fun conversations like we do from time to time. And I felt like by, us being so warm and welcoming, this would be phenomenal right now because a lot of people need this.
I love that. Well, hello, everyone. My name is Jasmine. I am the second oldest out of the four children. I also am a mother of three. I have twin boys and a daughter. And I really wanted to start this podcast with my sister and my mom because I feel like we have this great balance of being fun and real and raw, but we can also have honest conversations, and I wanted to be able to share that aspect of our relationship with other people in the hopes that it could help bridge any gaps in their relationships that they may have. So I just really look forward to you all spending time with us. So please do tune in every Monday and Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We will do more fun, interactive podcasts on Thursdays, and our more serious topics will be on Mondays. So please be sure to subscribe and like and leave a comment down below.
Thank you. Perfect.
Yeah. And then on that, why do you guys feel like, or why do you feel like this podcast was needed?
For me, I felt that the podcast was a wonderful idea because I know that while you guys were growing up, I always got feedback from your friends that I was the cool, down to earth mom, but yet understanding, and they all wish that they had a mom like me. So in terms of that, and another thing too, I come from a different generation, of course, than you do. And the way that you guys parent is different from the way that I parent you guys. And so I thought it would be a nice experience for us to talk about that and to let families know that even though you can have disagreements, it still can be done with love and understanding. And I may not always agree with how you want to raise your child, and I may have my opinions about things, but I have to step back and remember, after all, they are your children. So I think that this will be a great opportunity for us to discuss and talk about different things and just to have a good time. Okay, Jaleesa, so with that being said, I was wondering, have you ever felt like you were affected by did you ever feel like you had mental health challenges?
So mine came later in life. But I know Jasmine and I rather have talked and discussed acknowledging mental health issues during our teenage years, because Jasmine had some challenges, as we were growing up. So we used to talk about. So I think it would be better if she kind of shared, because we could, I guess we could go look in order from issues. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for bringing it over to me. So I wanted to start by saying that mental health issues, especially depression, is something that's actually very prevalent in young women. And it's actually higher amongst females compared to males. They say that at least 20% of teenagers will experience a depressive episode by the age of 17, which is it's really hard to think about because it takes me back to my teenage years and some of the mental health challenges that I had that I didn't even realize were a mental health challenge until later on in life. And it made me realize just how common it was. And I felt like it was important for us to kind of speak on our younger years, because a lot of times when people think about mental health challenges, sometimes we tend to overlook the younger people. We tend to think about young adults or, even older, but we fail to think about the children or the teenagers. So
Right.
I wanted to ask you, Mom, as a teenager, did you ever experience any mental health challenges? And if not, when did you first become aware that you may have had any mental health challenges? But if you did experience anything, how did you cope?
Well, I cannot remember having any as a teenager, but I will say this. I had trauma at a very young age, in which when I was 7, I lost my older sister. She got sick and passed away. So that was very traumatic for me. I feel like that led to isolation, and you can go through trauma where it will essentially block memories. So in terms of that, I'm sure that led to anxiety and all of that, but at such a young age, I wasn't aware. I didn't start thinking about this until I got older and started dealing with having anxiety attacks and all of that, and then everything started coming together. And so I feel like that is when I had the realization, hey, I probably did go through some challenges at a younger age, but not knowing what it was. Plus, in my generation, it wasn't, mental health issues was not a thing. It wasn't, talked about or whatever. And we didn't have the same tools back then that we have today to address those type of issues. So I think for me, that is why my issues of being traumatized as a young child was not addressed.
The good thing, I guess the good thing that came out of that is Mama always stressed and emphasized mental health. She always, checked in on our mental health growing up. there were times when we would tell her, like, you know, like, mama, like, hey, like, I'm not feeling the greatest, and you know, she never was one of those, well, you can go, you know, depress those dishes kind of parent. She was, you know what, if you are feeling this way, let's get you some help. Let's talk about it. Let's try to get to the root of it. And I don't know, you know, what all of the facts and statistics are around, you know, teenagers and mental health, but I feel like the foundation that we got growing up is what allows us to be more in tune with our mental health as adults. So, and not only that, but I remember you saying too, obviously grandmother evolved quite a bit during her life, because you actually recently shared something with us that I feel like is, you know, worth sharing to our audience about how, you know, she checked in.
You know, I do think grandmother definitely evolved and wasn't not sure what she was like, you know, when you were a young girl, but I do recall there was a time when she noticed that I was feeling sad. And they actually say 3 in 5 teen girls report feeling sad every day for at least 2 weeks. So it's very common. But I do recall she remember just seeing me sad, and she actually helped me with my self-confidence through getting a acne system going for myself. So no, I definitely appreciated grandmother.
Yeah, she so growing up for me, she was very in tune. However, losing a child, I'm sure, is never easy. So she was dealing with her own grief and sadness. And for as much as she could be there for me, she was. But then, you know, me being so young and not having a real understanding of what I was experiencing, I just know that one day my sister was there and the next day she was gone. And I do remember they allowed me to go to the funeral home to view her body, but I wasn't allowed to go to her actual funeral. So that was very traumatic. But I'm not surprised, because actually studies have shown that 28% of all African American women experience anxiety and depression at one time or another. What did surprise me is that only 50% of those actually seek out treatment when they're having issues. So I know that sometimes we can have depression and anxiety and don't recognize it. There are several general anxiety disorders that a person can have and maybe not even know what they're experiencing. So I know we had kind of like talked about that in your case. So if you would like to share, you know.
So actually there are, as a millennial and a female, there are quite a bit of mental health challenges that we face. Me in particular, I've recently dealt with, and I'm currently dealing with seasonal depression. I realized how bad it was when I turned 26. And then the following year, it just compounded. It was, I was living in Michigan, and I could just tell that something didn't feel right. I was expecting my second child. I was not happy, but I knew it was a happy time, and I was happy about her, but I just could not get it together. And then once I consulted a physician, and we pegged that this was something that I was, you know, dealing with before I got pregnant, we basically came to the conclusion that it was and is still seasonal depression. I also am dealing with burnout. But I've read where 24% of millennials are dealing with burnout. And then what's even crazier about that is 54% of Gen Xers are dealing with burnout. They're known as the sandwich generation, because not only are they taking care of their parents, but they're also taking care of their children and grandchildren, which is extremely stressful. So, I am happy that I've been able to recognize those mental health issues in myself, because again, Mama gave us, that foundation, and not once have I ever felt stigmatized or crazy. As a matter of fact, I feel empowered knowing that I'm able to recognize, okay, you know what, something feels off, right? I need to talk to somebody. I need to let my people know how I'm feeling, so that way, you guys are able to help and be there in any way, that you can.
So, not to interrupt you, but can you, because we may have people out there who don't know what seasonal depression is. So if you could, can you?
Yeah, so it's immense tiredness. It's a sense of feeling lonely, weight gain. As a matter of fact, actually gained quite a bit of weight during that time period, before I could get a handle on what it was. And then also it looks like isolation, and and then some people actually stop eating. They have no desire to eat. What I know, I just recall like the days being cold and dreary, and Michigan has really long winter months.
Yeah.
So it was becoming harder and harder to pull myself out of that, but the symptoms kind of exhibited themselves the same way every time.
Yeah.
So.
Mm-hmm. And Mom, with you being a veteran, I know usually veterans also sometimes experience depression. Did you ever experience any depression due to your military background?
Absolutely. Currently, I have been diagnosed with anxiety, and this anxiety is a result from my military service, things that I experienced while I was in the military. It's sad to say, but today in America, every 22 minutes, a veteran will commit suicide. Mm-hmm. And there are programs that veterans can get into. There's a hotline that they can call. There's a chat. There's any number of ways to seek out help. But again, if you don't recognize what the symptoms are, you would never know. I had also been diagnosed with PTSD too, which I wasn't aware of. I literally have had PTSD for almost 40 years now. Never knew what it was, never knew. I knew that I had some ways of thinking about things, but never understood why. I just thought it was just a part of my character, mm-hmm. or my makeup. Mm-hmm. And I never understood exactly what it was until I was diagnosed by the military as having PTSD and anxiety. So with anxiety, you can have chest pains. Anxiety can present itself as a heart attack. I remember one time my heart was beating so fast and I was hyperventilating, and I actually about a year and a half ago, drove myself to the emergency room because I thought I was having a heart attack. That was the beginning. And come to find out, once I got there, I was actually having a really, really bad anxiety attack. Mm-hmm. My hands were clammy. You feel like you're gonna faint. Mm-hmm. It's just a feeling that comes over you. It's hard to breathe. Mm-hmm. And it's your heart is racing. So that is that is anxiety. And like I said, if you don't know what it is, you would not know that you were having anxiety or a panic attack. There are several different types of phobias you can have too. You can have, I apologize, I picked up a cold. So but you can have different phobias that can come with that too. Phobias are irrational things that you are scared of, scared to go places, don't want to leave the house. That's agoraphobia.
You know what? Speaking of which, that's one thing that Jasmine and I had discussed was the love that you had for stepping and how all of a sudden it just stopped. Remember how she used to travel every time? Look, we called like, Mike, what you doing? I'm in Chicago. I'm in Detroit.
Yes.
Yes. And then all of a sudden it's like one day it just stopped and we didn't know what it was, until ultimately, you sought out someone and you found out. But
real quick, speaking on that too, which is kind of scary to hear all of the symptoms of anxiety. Again, with teenagers, they say 31.9% of teens have an estimated anxiety disorder. So to hear all of those symptoms, it kind of feels as if you may not know what's going on with you as an adult. So I couldn't even imagine what a teenager may feel, along with, trying to figure out what they want to do in life and making it through high school and things of that nature. Something that you spoke on earlier that kind of resonated with me as well is when you said you kind of don't remember that year after your sister passed away. That's something that I can remember experiencing as a teenager after our dad murdered our stepmom. Is I just wanted to get through that period of time. It happened during my high school years, and I recently had someone reach out to me who remembered me from high school, and I absolutely had no idea who they were, but they knew so much about me that I was like, okay, you really did know me during high school years. So I think that's something that is not talked about often, is sometimes with trauma, we will also experience memory loss. And it's the brain's way of trying to protect you. So I do wish more people would speak on that.
And along those lines, I don't know if you remember this, but when after the event happened, I did make sure that we all got a counselor because I had survivor's guilt. I had spoken to him prior to him doing what he did, and he had said some things, but you know how people say things and you don't really take it at face value. Plus, the person I knew was not that type of person. So I had survivor's guilt, and I felt that it was imperative for all of us to go to counseling because it was just, that's one of the things that you really need counseling for. You cannot wrap your mind around it. The reason why counseling didn't go over so well, I do remember the child psychologist saying that you guys were not open. And in order for therapy to work, you have to be open to discuss it. You have to be willing. And you guys were so shut down until he felt like it would cause more harm than good, trying to force you guys into therapy. So at that point, I had to, kind of like back off and then kind of like let you guys take the lead. But at the same time, paying attention to the different signs and making sure I checked in with you guys to know, okay, how are you feeling? Let's talk about this. Is there anything you want to talk about? What's bothering you? Because I know that that was a huge, monumental moment of you guys' lives.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the thing with grief, and I would say that's kind of like a sort of like a loss, is we all handle it different. So
right.
With grief and loss, Jaleesa, How do you
Yeah,
feel with being lost?
it's so funny that you say that about grief because I was sitting here thinking, and it's funny, we had talked, so Christmas, well, the holidays period. I mean, as you know, you guys both know, we lost Uncle Sonny 2 years ago today.
Yes.
And he began his health began to fail before Thanksgiving. He was sick then, and we pretty much had prepared for the worst. And so with that being said, I think we as a family are still processing his loss. Absolutely. And everything. And then I don't know what it was about this year in particular with the holidays, but it seemed like you had more people missing lost loved ones and grief kept arising. And one, I read that 47% of Americans did not celebrate Christmas all out this year, and we kind of fell into that category. We did not do Christmas decorations, we didn't do lights. Now we did give gifts to the kids. That was what we had decided on. And then in addition to missing our lost loved ones, we were missing our loved ones that aren't close. This was, we were away from you this Christmas.
We were away from my sister who, after the loss of her husband, moved back to Michigan.
Right.
And so typically for the holidays, everybody would get together at somebody's house.
Mm-hmm.
And this is pretty much the first time that we weren't able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I definitely felt the loss. As you know, Christmas is not about gifts or whatever. So in terms of that, anything I could have ever wanted or needed, I already have. So, but it was just, it just didn't feel like Christmas this year. So,
yeah.
And I think, like you said before, you could definitely tell we weren't the only ones.
Did you do a tree this year or in the decorations? You did?
We did put up the Christmas tree and decorations. We did it Christmas Eve for
okay.
Let them think that the elves brought it.
And then I was gonna say something else that you touched on too. Another reason why holidays are hard for people, it brings up anxiety, because people are gathering with sometimes, unfortunately,
the financial burden.
Well, right, and then not only that, but unfortunately, sometimes we have toxic family members, and due to the holidays, there are family gatherings, and that is extremely hard on people. So to me, it's not surprising that so many people struggle around the holidays, because there are so many dynamics at play.
Or they don't even have family members to go visit.
Right.
Yeah, that's another thing. Yeah.
And it goes back to that loneliness epidemic, that we started off talking about.
Yeah.
With that being said, I did want to touch on something else that I noticed with the facts and statistics that you've been presenting, Jasmine, is a lot of them are based off, it seems like they affect females more, based off the percentages that you were, based off the statistics that you were giving us when it comes to mental health. It seems like a lot of, like I said, I don't know what it is, but it seems like females are overwhelmingly affected more. Am I getting that right?
Well, yeah. Well, if you think about it in terms of, we carry more on our shoulders. We typically, in most households where you do have two-parent households, in this economy, the mother is working. So not only is she working, you named it, the sandwich generation, she's probably taken care of. I know that I had gone through that some years ago. Sadly, now my mother and father are gone. But when my mom was alive, I was in the midst of taking care of you guys, but also taking care of her, taking her to doctor's appointments or whatever and making sure that she was okay. So you have the stress of that, then you have the financial stress, then I would have to go up to the school. You have parent teachers conference. So if you play sports or something like that, it was extracurricular activities. So we are being pulled in 99 different directions. So you can't help but feel this overwhelming amount of stress. Working, just it's a number of things that can definitely bring on anxiety and depression.
And I think women are also a little bit more vocal too. So I'm pretty sure the statistics may be a little off. It may be even more males out there, but men tend to not seek help or be as open about seeking help as women do.
Right.
For sure.
And it's our dynamic.
Right.
I know Jaleesa and I have talked a lot about how, like, who's going to take care of you when you get older. And we always say, like, it's probably going to be one of us.
Right. Right.
Yeah. So
I'd rather it be one of us.
Please don't put me in a nurse.
No. No. Well, not put her with, put you with Kavan.
Oh my goodness.
Right. So look, because that would be an additional toll on our mental health. Look, if Kavan was handling it, but and with with you talking about men not being as vocal, that is something too that I want to be honest about when it comes to getting mental help. It's not easy. I have heard numerous men say that counseling and mental health help initially it hurt. It was hard. It's hard in the beginning because you gotta pull back a lot of layers. You gotta dig up some things that you probably didn't want to talk about or do. But the really good thing about counseling and getting help when it comes to your mental health is, even though it's really, really hard in the beginning, it is so worth it.
Absolutely.
In the end.
Absolutely.
And then I feel like, people owe it to themselves to not only be mental healthy physically, but our mental health is just as, important as our physical, because a lot of times we see mental health challenges can affect our physical.
Absolutely.
So
and there too, there's a stigma. And I kind of alluded to it, like, girl, you so crazy. But there's a stigma that goes along with mental health issues. Nobody wants to be known as the quote unquote crazy person. And so people don't like to, you can ask somebody how they're feeling. They'll freely disclose, oh, I'm okay. I had surgery on my back or something like that. But never will you hear somebody say, well, I was having some mental health challenges, but I'm doing better now, because there's a stigma around mental health issues, and where there shouldn't be. And just due to everything that we are facing today, we will see even more mental health crisis going on in this country. So it's especially important for us to check in on our friends and check in on our neighbors and check in on our family members, especially if you see something that's a little off. We'll give, and towards the end of this show too, we will give links and phone numbers where if you feel like you are experiencing some mental health challenges, you can check in and get help. There's free help out there. A lot of times on your job, they offer EAP, which is Employee Assistance Program, which your employer will never know. You can call this number, they will give you help. And I want to say you can get anywhere from like 6 to 12 sessions for free before you have to start paying. So there is help out there if you feel that you need it. Again, we may not always know that we're suffering, have something going on mentally, but there is help out there that you can get.
Mm-hmm.
And then something else that I think is also important to share is that I've never met anybody who has sought help who have regretted it. Like everyone I have ever met who has went to therapy have always said they wish they would have did it sooner. So
yes,
it's definitely helpful.
Yeah. And another way, because it's I don't want to say it's funny, I just think it's I find it kind of crazy how with the we know so many military veterans, and I think about one in particular who was essentially he was a family friend and a neighbor. I wish that I would have asked him more how he was doing, because unfortunately right before Thanksgiving he unexpectedly took his life, and all I could do was try to remember our last few interactions, and when it seemed like something changed or when it seemed like it was just something seemed different about him, it just that is one suicide in particular that's bothered me, because again, with the whole stigma around being afraid to disclose our mental health, I often wonder now if I would have asked him how he was doing, maybe if I could have been, if I could have helped him, or if there's something that I could have said, that maybe would have made him rethink what he decided to do. So I don't know. I know that it seems like we are starting the year off with a really, really heavy subject, but coming off of the holidays and just reading all of the news stories and knowing, so many people that have lost people during this holiday season, we felt like
this was important, very important to share and to get the word out there. And if we can help, just one person, then this was totally worth it.
Absolutely.
And also to keep in mind that all mental health crises don't look the same. Like some people don't exhibit the symptoms of having a mental disorder or even depression. Like there is a such thing as high functioning depression. So I think it's also just important to just reach out to people. Like even if somebody crossed your mind, they came on your mind for a reason. So just reach out and see.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I think that's important to do.
I'm going to circle back to that high functioning depression because I feel as though that's what I had. You couldn't have never told me that I was depressed. I never was the type of person to be, when we think of depression, we think of being in the bed, balled up in knots, crying or whatever. I was always one of the happiest people that I thought I ever knew. So for me to be diagnosed with depression says a lot. And the high functioning piece, especially. I never stopped going to work, never stopped doing. The only thing that I did that I noticed was, like you said before, I kind of pulled back from dancing because I really love stepping. and I pulled back from that and I isolated more. But then too, I felt coming off of COVID, I just thought, okay, I had been used to being locked down for so long. This was the result of COVID.
Right.
Only to find out that, yeah, it really was depression.
Mm-hmm.
So depression does not always look like what you think it will look like. But if you feel off, if something does not quite feel right and you don't know exactly what it is, then by all means, I would stress talking to your family doctor first, letting them know. Another thing I noticed too, just recently, I had a physical exam. And I notice now when you go to the doctor, at least with my doctor, my civilian doctor, she starts off asking, have you been down? Do you feel depressed? So they actually will do a anxiety and depression screening on you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like part of, they are now making this part of your overall health care.
Mm-hmm.
So that I was happy to know that,
Right. And then too, something that we didn't get a chance to talk about, but I did want to bring up too, is with anxiety or just mental health issues, period. I know we keep emphasizing, counseling is hard, and and it is definitely a journey. And so, sometimes people might get discouraged about that. Like, well, why would I want to take this prolonged, extended period to try to get this taken care of when I feel awful now? And that brings me to another point. Anxiety medication, as well as depression, medication for depression actually can, and most times does offer faster relief while you work through counseling and things like this. So at least you feel a little bit better going into the sessions. I know me personally, most of my friends and family are aware that I had gotten sick in July. Actually came close to leaving here. And with that experience came anxiety. And I let my physicians know, like, hey, like, I'm feeling this way, I'm feeling anxious, I don't, like the way that I'm feeling. They were able to prescribe me a very low dose of Ativan, which is a really popular anti-anxiety medication with mild side effects, although I didn't experience any. And it was one of the best things that he could have done for my mental health immediately at that point. And after a while, I didn't need them anymore because I worked through, I was able to work through what I was feeling coming off of that traumatic experience. So there are a number of different ways, we are able to seek help. And Jasmine, look, I feel like we've touched on some of these subjects. Do we leave anything off of the table?
I wouldn't say we left anything off the table. The only thing I would also add is if someone didn't want to do medication or if they didn't feel comfortable talking to someone, something that really helped me with my depression is just getting outside. Like, it's so simple, free, it doesn't cost anything. And when you just really take the time to just take in the world and go for a walk and listen to the birds, and I'm real natural, like something like that, like you just have this appreciation for life that you probably miss most of the time because you're so busy with the rest of your life going on. So if you don't want to talk to anybody, or if you don't feel like taking medication right this moment, just get outside, go for a walk, and just really pay attention to the world because it is beautiful.
Absolutely. And also too, with that, self-care, meditation, I know that you just spoke on that. You meditate. That's something that I need to do. I said, look, maybe in 2025, I'll finally start meditating like I should be. But meditation, we just went a couple of weeks ago and had massages, which that was good. I think we had a 90-minute massage. That was good. Anything that will help your mental, doing something, taking up a hobby, anything that will get you outside of yourself, maybe volunteering somewhere, go to a homeless shelter and volunteer or something like that. And the reason why I say that is because when you step outside of yourself and you're helping somebody else, you're not focusing on so much as what's going on internally with you. And you can have an appreciation for where you are. So there are a number of different things you can do to overcome and don't let the stigma of it stop you.
Right.
I know, and I'll just be honest and forthright. In the Black community, especially, we don't like calling law enforcement when a loved one is having a crisis, because far too often we've seen the result of calling a loved one. But this is why I say early intervention is critical. When you first notice that something is going on, that is the time to start checking in, like, hey, something is not right, not waiting until your loved one has gone totally off the deep end.
Right. And you know what? Another thing, so when you said an appreciation, one thing that I have an appreciation for is how intentional you are, Jasmine, with your self-care. And actually, I feel like you could really offer some phenomenal tips on how you get around to your self-care and what kinds of things you do for self-care. I know you will slap a face mask on in the heart, but so for somebody like, okay, well, what, how do I self-care? Like how,
No, I think that's good. What I would always suggest first and foremost before you try to pick up anything is just ask why. Like start off with why. Like, why do you want to do this? Because if you start with why, it'll make it a lot easier to continue doing it, especially when it gets hard. Because some days you're not going to feel like going for a walk or exercising or meditating. Sometimes you just want to lay on the couch and watch TV or a movie, and that's fine. That's also a form of self-care in my personal opinion. But just start off with why and like get that benefit of why it's going to help you and then go from there. So how I actually started is I started with the 20-20-20 formula. So I woke up an hour earlier than I typically did. So for 20 minutes, I would reflect. So that looks like journaling, prayer. You could even do meditation, just something that's going to allow you to start having gratitude for your life. And then the next 20 minutes, I would move. So I'm going for a walk, I'm doing yoga, I'm jump roping, like anything that's going to really wake me up. And then the last 20 minutes would be growth. So that's reading a book, listening to audiobooks, ebooks, something that's just going to stimulate your mind, listening to a podcast. So if you want to listen to us in the morning, just something that's going to allow you to get a different perspective of the world and other people's thoughts and opinions, because I do think something that you have touched on, Mom, is with COVID, with the world locking down, a lot of people stayed in the house. We lost connection with people. And even I feel like people are still not as connected as we were before COVID. So, listening to podcasts is a great way to build community and start to connect with other people, because you never know who you're going to meet in the comment section down below. So if you want to leave a comment down below, so you can
feel free.
Fellow like-minded people right ahead. But I would say that is what has helped me with my self-care journey and how I got started. is I just started with 20 minutes of this, 20 minutes of that, 20 minutes of this. And that really did transform the rest of my life, because when you spend that first hour of your day completely to yourself, because I got children and I know what it's like to have children.
Right.
When you have that first hour to yourself and it's quiet, it's still dark outside, you really feel good about yourself and you're able to be more productive.
Yeah.
And that's another way to, love yourself and show love, because you have to be able to love on yourself. And not only that, but that's another thing with, expressing. And we keep going back to this because there's absolutely nothing wrong with being aware of your mental health and, wanting it to get better if you are, having issues or struggling. There is no greater love that you can give yourself than acknowledging a problem and a solution for it, or trying to fix it. Because in the end, like Jasmine said, you'll never regret it. You'll never regret reaching out, for help or talking to somebody, or just overall, becoming fully healed, healthy, and whole. So if you feel like, and I love that you brought up the comment section. In addition to the comment section, we would absolutely love, if you guys to message us. If you have questions, concerns, if you feel like, there was something that we missed during this particular episode, or that you would like, to see us touch on going forward. Because mental health is constantly something that needs to be, worked on or looked into. It's almost like a muscle. This will not be our last show on mental health awareness. So, we can always, touch on anything that was missed. And then if you guys feel like, you can't talk to your loved ones, or you're embarrassed, again, please feel free, to reach out to us via, DMs, messages, because, we would love to obviously offer some assistance, especially because we are so passionate about, this topic.
So on that note, I am going to leave you with some numbers that you can call if you feel you are struggling. If you feel like you're in crisis or you feel suicidal, you can call or text 988. Again, that number is 988. You can also do a chat at 988lifeline.org. That is one source you have.
And then Jasmine actually provided one for youth. So we have the youth crisis line at 800-843-5200. And then we also have it's a Mental Health America. And the reason why this service is vital is, all of these services are free. We want to emphasize that because we did talk about counseling, and I know people are like, well, what if I don't have money for a counselor? I don't have insurance, and counseling can be expensive. These are free resources. So there is one, going back to the Mental Health America resource, that actually is a online screening tool that will help you pinpoint your potential mental health issue or potential diagnosis for your mental health before you seek help. And then we also have the Veterans Crisis Line. That is also, you can text 838-255, and they are there to offer immediate assistance to our veterans who are struggling.
All of these numbers you can call, you can reach out to somebody 24/7, 365 days a year.
And then these links and numbers will also be listed at the bottom in the description below, or in the description below the video. And then lastly, as far as resources go, if you guys are wanting, I don't really want to talk over the phone. I would rather, try to build a community, try to find a community. There are several online support groups where you can have essentially meetings with people that are going through the same things. A couple of those really quick. We have Anxiety and Depression Association of America, and then we have the Depression and Bipolar Support Alliance, as well as Postpartum Support International for our, mothers that are going through issues postpartum.
Yes, and again, all of this information will be down in the description box below, so please do check out the description box. And I did want to share a quote to kind of wrap up our episode today, because I do know this episode was a bit heavy. And the quote is by David Richo, and he says, "Our wounds are often the openings into the best and most beautiful part of us." And I think that is so very true. When you are able to start healing from whatever it is that you may be going through, you learn so much more about yourself. And so I do want you all to take what we have shared today. And if you are experiencing anything that we covered today or something that we did not cover today, please do check out those resources for us. And before I share about what we will be getting into on Thursday, my sister did touch on it earlier. We did lose our Uncle Sonny 2 years ago to this day. And so we wanted to dedicate this episode to him. And I know my mom wanted to share some about him.
So my brother-in-law, Creighton Acker, was a character. To know him was to love him, and he was a minister, by the way. He was a beautiful soul, inside and out, and he is dearly missed every day. The kids and I think about him all the time, and he was a great influence in their lives. When I was going through a divorce, he always stepped in. So my sons always had a positive male role model. And so, as Jasmine said, we want to dedicate this premiere episode to his memory. And as she said, he passed away 2 years ago today, January 6th. So he is dearly missed and dearly loved.
Love you. My lovely ladies, was there anything that you all wanted to touch on that I may have missed before I share what we get into on Thursday?
You know what? No,
that was it.
I think we hit the nail on the head.
We covered it.
I love it. Well, I hope you all have enjoyed our premiere episode. Please do come back on Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We are going to relax a little bit.
Yes.
Hey.
So much for joining us today.
Absolutely. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.